English and Foreign Language Universities, EFLU, Hyderabad, for the valedictory address. This address will be moderated by Dr. Madhu Sahani, who's a professor at JNU. And I would now like to invite Dr. Madhu Sahani to introduce Dr. Ganeshan.
Thank you. Okay, it's a great pleasure to introduce Professor Ganeshan. In fact, when I was a student, he taught us Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. We did it 100 years ago, but Professor Ganeshan had done that with us. So it's a great pleasure to introduce you, Professor Ganeshan. Professor Ganeshan studied Hindi literature, history, and political science at the Osmania University in Hyderabad, Germanistik and Internationale Politik at the Universität in München, from where he obtained his PhD. He's also got a Sprachlehre diploma from the Goethe Institute at München. His fields of specialization are German studies, methods of teaching German as a foreign language, and cross-cultural communications. From 1975 to 2007, he was a professor of German at the Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages, Hyderabad, and was also the vice chancellor at this institute during 1996 and 1997, as well as 2004 and 2005. He's taught German language, German literature, and methods of teaching German as a foreign language, and trained teachers of German and English during the 32 years of his academic career in India. Since 2019, he's Emeritus Professor of German at the IIS University, Jaipur, Emeritus Professor IIS University, Jaipur, okay. He is the academic advisor for Roseland Academy at the USA and also the high school in India. He's been a visiting professor and lecturer of German at many institutions all over the world, and he's published 2 books in German, Das Indien Erlebnis Hermann Hesses and Das Indienbild Deutscher Dichter um 1900, as well as over 100 articles in professional journals, both in India and abroad. Thank you so much for giving us a talk, a very interesting title your talk has today. So I hand it over to you now, Professor Ganeshan.
Thank you, Madhu. It's nice to see you after quite a long time, and actually all of you. I'd like to thank, first of all, Vibha and Meher and the entire team at the University of Mumbai for taking the risk of inviting me to be with you all. Instead of singing that old Hindi song, Mere Angane Mein Tumhara Kya Kaam Hai. Mayor Kulkarni introduced me as Emeritus Professor of FLU. I want to make a small correction. I am not FLU. I am Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages. FLU is for me what is for Ramkishan Advani, today's BJP. I came on 10th September to India from Atlanta, and I'm here for academic interactions till February 10th, 2023. Then I will get back to US again for 6 months. I'm always 6 months in the US, 6 months in India. So after 6 months in India, I will get back to Atlanta, which will be called by a particular group of people as Ulti Garvapsi. Today I'm talking to you all from Jalgaon in Maharashtra. I'm here at a school for the last 10 days interacting with students and teachers. Wherever and whenever I give a talk, since years, people always expect me to use some kind of humor sprinkled in my talk. Therefore, let me start with a disclaimer, as it is done every day, whenever you want to say something in the globalized world. I want the younger people about whom I'm going to talk to take it a little easy, as we say in Hyderabad, light le lo yaar. The topic for the valedictory address I'm expected to deliver now is given in the program as #SIT number 4 youth. I had formulated the topic in my best English as what can the youth of today learn from Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha? But then I was told that the younger faculty members would like to put the topic as hashtag Sid4Youth. Since their ego is more important to me than my own ego, which I'm still trying to get rid of, I agreed to it. But I want to tell you, the young people, you cannot interpret everything with your attitudes of today and your language of today. Please don't do it. Because I'm worried now. And I hope the Goethe Society of India will be careful about this. Because if tomorrow someone wants to give a talk for the Goethe Society of India, I don't want the young faculty to first of all pronounce the name of Goethe in the Indian style as Gade. And suppose the topic is Goethe between Germany and India, rename the topic as Gada Nagarka Nagatka. Hermann Hesse, known widely as the poet of the interior journey, wrote Siddhartha in 1922 when he was 45 years old. It was his 9th novel. What is the novel about? It depicts the story of a young man named Siddhartha who is on a quest for knowledge and a deeper understanding of himself. The novel emphasizes Siddhartha's self-assertive individuality. In succession, Siddhartha rejects the intellectual and ritualistic teachings of his father and the other Brahmins, the self-abnegating rigors of the ascetic samanas, the opportunity to become a disciple of Gautama Buddha, the world-weary existence of material success, and even the futile role of a protective father to his son. Siddhartha finds all the teachings to be inadequate in various ways. The scholarships of the Brahmins that leads to intellectual prowess but not happiness. The asceticism of the Samanas that creates a stoic perseverance but nothing more. The art of love from Kamala that never results in a loving spirit. And the mercantile expertise of the merchant Kamaswami that leads only to unsatisfying entanglement in possessions. Though through a movement from extreme to extreme, Siddhartha finally comes to the silent, listening Vasudeva, the ferryman. Vasudeva radiates an inner peace that Siddhartha wishes to attain. Vasudeva says he himself has attained this sense of peace through many years of studying the river. Siddhartha expresses a desire to likewise learn from the river. Eventually, he finds spiritual wisdom by contemplating the flow of a great river. Each of the novels, 12 chapters divided into 2 parts, finds Siddhartha simultaneously facing a crisis and a new beginning in his search. So one could say Siddhartha is intellectually reborn again and again. It's a kind of punarjan. As Siddhartha reflects one day the stages of his life, he thinks it's like the old skin that leaves the serpent. There have been numerous interpretations of this novel since it was published. It has been perceived and interpreted in different ways by many of the readers coming from different countries and different cultures. Some people refer to it as a book of enlightenment, wisdom, and a path of inner peace. Someone has compared Siddhartha with the Bhagavad Gita and is of the opinion that both the works are about the ways of understanding the intrinsic essence of this universe and the self. Someone said, Hesse's Siddhartha depicts the power dynamics of society. Hermann Hesse's novel Siddhartha has sometimes been called a work of reverse missionary activity, bringing to the West the lessons of a typically Eastern story of spiritual searching and fulfillment. Now, what can the youth of today learn from Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha? You heard a lot about Siddhartha since morning, and you must have also read a lot of things about Hermann Hesse and Siddhartha. I'm not consciously going to indulge in a scholarly and theoretical discussion about Hesse and Siddhartha now. I'm simply looking at Hesse Siddhartha from the point of view of a young reader who may know nothing about literature as a scholarly subject. Why should you as young people try to learn from Hesse? There's a simple, valid reason. Hesse perceived accurately that most of us stumble from adolescence into adulthood in possession of selves that are half-formed, unexamined, and buffeted by the winds of the world. Hesse said, intellektuelle Erkenntnisse sind Papiere. Vertrauen hat immer nur der von Erfahrenem redet. Therefore, I am talking to you all not as a professor of German, who can of course modestly say even today, ich kann heute noch wie ein Goethe-Denkmal schillern, but as a 75 years young lifelong learner who read Hesse's Siddhartha at the young age of 20. For a moment, let us not think of Siddhartha in a religious or spiritual context. It's a book that can motivate all of us to think a little bit about our life. We as humans are constantly faced with choices and decisions which could lead us down many paths in our life. And we are living in the time of globalization. As a professor, I'm supposed to have only idiosyncratic views on everything. So let me give you my idiosyncratic definition of globalization. If colonialism was the rule by foreigners by force, globalization is the rule by foreigners by invitation. It is in this context, the youth of today, whether in India or in Germany, they can learn a lot from Hesse Siddhartha. According to me, youth of today can learn the following from Hesse Siddhartha. What are these messages? We can learn something from every moment in our life. Life is an eternal learning process. In life, there will always be challenges. Embrace life's challenges as necessary for your evolution, and they are here to teach you. Presence is key to evolution. Like the reverse journey in the story, we learn that our actions of today are the most important because they define us. Release the impulse to constantly seek the next big thing. Replace this impulse with an ability to remain open, aware, and humble. Ultimately, this is how we should be growing as human beings. You are your own guru. You'll meet many people at various stages in your life. All will be your teachers, and some will help guide you and offer valuable wisdom to help you to further discover life and your own true nature. Respect and learn from others. But don't hold anyone's power or wisdom above your own. Always trust someone's actions more than their words. You know the famous book, Bible says, am Anfang war das Wort. But Goethe said in his Faust correctly, am Anfang war die Tat. Words are way too easy to throw around, but actions are what defines someone as a human being and personality. A teaching that reflects the experience of a teacher cannot instill that experience in your follower. I want to repeat this. You all had a lot of teachers. You're all having a lot of teachers even today. But please remember this. A teaching by a teacher that reflects the experience of a teacher cannot instill that experience in your follower. Some of your teachers maybe talking, particularly if you're studying literature. Some of your teachers may be talking with a lot of excitement about existentialism, deconstruction, subtextuality, post-colonialism, Jacques Derrida, Foucault, Max Weber, Walter Benjamin. The list is very long. But remember one thing. All this information, which demonstrate that your professors know a lot, may not bring any purposeful wisdom into your own life, except for the functional purpose of learning all that by heart and going and reproducing in the exam so that you get a better grade than Sharmaji ka beta. The words of everyone around us can communicate something useful to us and thus prepare us to experience life with a positive and optimistic approach. I'm always ready to learn. That's why even at this age, I sincerely started learning something about computers because I said I can learn from everybody something useful. And that's why after mastering the MS Word, as a teacher who believes in lifelong learning, I am now eagerly looking forward to learn MS Sentence. Your journey is not like anyone else's journey. Embrace your unique path and avoid playing the comparison game. Never compare yourself with any other human being. Never do a hero worship. You must live by and trust your life purpose. Don't let anything or anyone stand in the way of you and what you truly want to achieve in your life. All these thoughts I'm drawing from Hesse's Siddhartha. We each have a unique gift and purpose to share with the world. Find yours and live by that compass. Be who you want to be. Living the way you want to live is the only way to live a fulfilled life. That's why when people tell me cogito ergo sum, I tend to add in my own way something. When people say cogito ergo sum, then I think to myself, deshalb bin ich dumm. Everything in life happens for a reason. And the choices we make are always a learning opportunity that we can look back on. We can look back to our mistakes. There's nothing wrong. Committing mistakes is part of our life. We can look back to prevent making the same mistakes twice. Like you are attending my talk today. All the answers you are seeking are within you already. You have the power to create your reality and live the life of your dreams. Through clear intention, conscious action, all that you desire can become reality. Time and change are the only constant factors in life. Be happy in the present as life will pass quickly. Flow with the present and fear not the future or regret the past. Come to embrace the passing time and change. Live in the present as it will become the past. Release anxieties about the future as it can shift so drastically at any moment. The present is where you can make the biggest changes in your life. We all start our life, to borrow something from science, we all start our life as 0-watt bulb. And thanks to our parents, teachers, and friends, slowly from a 0-watt bulb, we become a tube light. And then try our best to become in real life someday a 300-watt E39 bulb, the brightest light bulb. Ultimately, we have to understand that enlightenment is not a destination, but the whole journey of life. Therefore, wisdom can only be gained through experience, not by teachings. One can only attain wisdom by going through difficult circumstances and hard times. As much as you try to listen to the teachings of people you respect, true wisdom can only be learned from yourself and by yourself. Knowledge is very important. Knowledge can be taught, but wisdom cannot be taught. It can only be gained through real life experience. Just as the water of the river flows into the ocean and is returned by rain, all forms of life are interconnected in a cycle without beginning or end. Birth and death are all part of a timeless unity. Life and death, joy and sorrow, good and evil are all parts of the whole and are necessary to understand the meaning of life. As a young person, if you are willing to learn all this, then to put it in your own jargon, you will realize Hesse's Siddhartha will leave you feeling pretty chill. That is the hashtag SID for youth I can offer to you today. Let's always remember one very important thing what Hesse said. We should all take it seriously, particularly as teachers and students of humanities. He said, alles Wissen und alles Vermehren unseres Wissens endet nicht mit einem Schlusspunkt, sondern mit einem Fragezeichen. That's what I learned in my life. I believe in that. I continue to practice it. I hope that reading Siddhartha's essay again and again will bring you the kind of inner peace which you may be looking for. Thank you all for your patience. And I'm looking forward to meeting those of you who are in Mumbai when I come in the last week of January 2023 to Mumbai. I wish each and every one of you what you wish for yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ganeshan, for this reading of Siddhartha as a tool to learn about yourselves for the younger generation, although I think it holds equally good for people with white hair as well, honestly, yeah? But perhaps since you wanted to speak to the younger people and read this book for the younger people, maybe some of the younger people here present have questions to ask or would like to respond. Even if there are no questions, they might like to respond to all what you've said. So please raise your hands, ask. I think this was a very free-flowing talk about what one perceives as what one can learn in life and what we can take from Siddhartha. So now we've already got two people. Parth Kadu and Sahib Kapoor have raised their hands. Parth maybe first and then Sahib.
Yeah. So you made a sentence saying that cogito ergo sum deshalb bin ich dumm. Correct? So can you explain the sentence, because I didn't means cogito ergo sum, I have understand deshalb bin ich dumm. Why did you make that sentence? I didn't understand that. So can you explain it? Sir, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Professor Ganeshan.
I'm sorry, computer still has problems with me. So, see, the cogito ergo sum is a classic statement which tells us denkend. Deshalb bin ich. I think, therefore I am. Fine, the original statement is valid. But what happens is, we as human beings take some of these statements and then try to corrupt them mentally. And today, what is happening as far as I can see is people don't think, they overthink. And that is something very, very risky. As long as you are thinking, it's fine. But people are overthinking. And you will see a lot of young people, they don't think about the problems they have on hand, but they start thinking about what is it going to be in future. You can handle future only if you start thinking about the present properly and not think too much of the past also. It's very, very important. And I would be happy if young people take this a little seriously, because there are some people who are talking about the glorious Indian past. Fine. But most of the young people today, they cannot survive on that glory of the Indian past. Past is past. Maybe it was glorious. I'm not disputing it. But young people of today have a lot to do with the risks of a globalized future. And that's what is bothering me all the time. Because if you would tell me, I'm just giving an example, I know what I'm risking, that in the old ancient India, we had everything, okay? All the knowledge, science, technology, everything we had. Now, I'm not even asking where are they now. But if I'm told somebody brought his wife from somewhere on a Pushpaka Viman, fine. His wife was lucky. But my concern is how is Air India working today? Other Indian airlines are working today. Okay, that is what concerns me. Because I don't have a Pushpaka Viman. No bank is going to give me a loan to build a Pushpaka Viman. So I want you to understand it in that sense. Saying that sometimes overthinking can be a little dumb. Thank you.
Sahib?
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ganeshan. That was very interesting talk actually for the younger generation. Like, I'm quite impressed by that. I just have a basic question regarding it. I am actually, amazed by your talk. Is there anything that one or a younger generation should not take from Hesse, or one should be very careful while taking Hesse's philosophy in his life? Or you think it's perfectly conceptualized and one should go?
No. I'll tell you one thing. See, when you want to buy something today as a consumer, see, earlier, my generation, we had only one choice. There was only one shop. Okay? एक छोटा सा दुकान था. हमको जो भी खरीदना था वहीं से लिए. एक ही सब्जी वाला था, एक ही दूध वाला था. But you have got a vast choice today. So when you buy things today, you do go to different supermarkets and pick up things. Right? So what I'm trying to say is the opportunities your generation has we never had. Let me make you smile with a small joke. Dadaji, the grandfather, told the grandson, this usual stuff what old people do in India. Hamare zamane mein. Then they'll start their pravachan. They won't give you any protsahan. So grandfather said, my days, I went to the bazaar with 20 rupees. When I came home, I brought 1 kilo rice, 1 kilo tuar dal, आधा kilo makkan, आधा kilo ghee, 4-5 vegetables, and 3-4 fruits. He proudly said that. And you know what the grandson said? Grandson smiled at Dadaji and said, yes, grandfather, I understand that fully, because in your days, there were no CCTV cameras in the shops. So my point is, you should not stick to one person as your idol in your life. Never do that. Learn from everyone. So there are some things you can learn from Hesse. The purpose of the talk was to tell you what are the things you can learn from Hesse. And my job was not to tell you what you should not be learning from him, because that is at the moment irrelevant. Let us not think about the negative things. Nobody is perfect. Hesse was also not perfect. He himself writes about it. But he is very conscious about his learning process. So that is what I'm trying to tell you. Pick up good things from everywhere, whatever good things you get. Try it out. If it's useful, take it. If you think it's not useful, just forget it. Your life goes on. That applies also to my talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to ask anything? Then I think we shall wrap up this session too. Thank you so much, Professor Ganeshan.
Thank you.
And I'm handing it back to Mihir, I think. Yes?
Yes, thank you, Professor Ganeshan, and thank you, Professor Madhusani, for the valedictory address and its moderation. We now come to the conclusion of today's symposium, or as Hesse would put it, the river has finally reached the ocean. And I would now like to invite Dr. B. Subramanian, former professor of German Studies, IIT Mandi, for the concluding remarks.
Thank you very much. I shall effect the transition from benediction to valediction in as brief a manner as possible, much as flowed down the river. And I don't think we are very far away from the other shore. So let me be brief. I would like to remind our audience that in 1922, another work with an Indian context appeared. This was Stefan Zweig's Die Augen des ewigen Bruders, a work which Hermann Hesse thought had many similarities to Siddhartha. Since I want to be brief, let me tell you that in the story of Stefan Zweig, the hero is a general called Virata, who is torn between the pangs of consciousness between his private and his official consciousness. In his official capacity, he has to preside over the execution of his rebellious brother. In his private capacity, he mourns this decision. And buttressed between these two, he finally becomes an ascetic, goes to the forest, and his virtues as an ascetic have become so famous that people start on a pilgrimage to see him and get his blessings. And on one of these occasions, he learns from a widow that her husband tried to imitate him, and imitating him, what happened was the husband died of starvation. So Stefan Zweig comes to the conclusion, rather oddly, that even if you do nothing, you are subject to the law of karma. This is like the famous Cadbury advertisement, do nothing, eat Cadbury. So even if you do nothing, als untätiger, you are subject to the law of karma. Now, this should tell us very clearly that be it Hesse or Siddhartha, or Stefan Zweig's Die Augen des ewigen Bruders, we are in a classic conflict that literature has often exemplified, the conflict between knowing and acting. If we closely examine this relationship, then we will realize that there is a knowing that hinders us from action. For example, if I talk to a piano player and ask him, how did he play that note? He will become very conscious of his fingers and he will make attempts to play the note, but not successfully. So his knowledge arrests his action. Similarly, there can be action that is arrested from knowing. So you go to your local dentist He tells you, well, he looks at your teeth and says, no, the problem is you need a root canal treatment. The dentist doesn't examine you at all. He just looks at your teeth and just says root canal. Or you go to a doctor, he says, no fever, just take Crocin. So this kind of action hinders us from knowing. Then we also have a knowing that hinders action altogether. For example, the story of the fox and the hounds. The fox sets upon the hounds. The hounds set upon the fox. The fox knows several ways of escape. And even if, as it is trying to decide which way it should go, the hound set upon it and it dies. Similarly, we also have action that is arrested from knowing altogether. Say, for example, Rilke's famous Saltimbanque elegy, the fifth elegy, where the acrobats resemble the sexual act. They come down, again, they form a figure. They collapse, again, they form a figure. This is what Shakespeare calls in one of his sonnets, I think it's sonnet 129, the expense of spirit in a waste of shame. Having had, and in quest to have, extreme. Before a joy proposed, behind a dream. All this the world well knows, but yet none knows well to shun the heaven that leads men to the cell. So if you examine the relationship between knowing and acting, you will see that the Western ideal is the complete synonymity of knowing and acting. There should be no discrepancy between the two. The one should lead to the other. And this you find is the ideal of Socratic activity. Socratic knowing being acting. So there should be no discrepancy. Whereas in India, we tend more towards Stefan Zweig's story. That is, knowing and acting can reside in the same person. So the knower in jnana and the doer in karma can reside in the same person. So one can be independent of the other, autonomous of the other. So in India, we have the total autonomy of knowing and acting. This you find in Stefan Zweig's story, for example. But ultimately, the whole issue of how this is resolved is very important. Because if you have the Socratic synonymity of knowing and acting, you see that the resolution involves drama, involves, dogma. So it involves catharsis. So once this resolution takes place, we find that the Western understanding gives way to the idea of music as harmony. So there are tensions, there are differences, but they are bridged. And in the bridging of this, the result is harmony. So music becomes harmony, whereas, as Professor Martin Kempschen told us this morning, in Hermann Hesse, it is melody. And melody, that is because, as in the case of, the autonomy of knowing and acting, all can coexist side by side. The eternal raga, so to speak, the melody, takes us to the other shore without conflict. So one is agonal, one is full of conflicts, whereas the other, the Indian lifestyle, you may say, is, total lack of conflict. So I may say, in effect, this is the main point, when we study either Stefan Zweig or Hermann Hesse, it is in this long tradition of the relationship between knowing and understanding that we have to, look at this. I end on this note because it is rather late in the evening. I just want to say that in India, we have another problem. It is often said, for example, by Rudolf Kastner, the West has history, China has the chronicle, and India has the legend. We unfortunately, have a very poor sense of history. So even as we celebrate Hermann Hesse's 100th anniversary of Siddhartha, let us also remind ourselves that this is the 25th anniversary since the founding of the Goethe Society of India. I wish to congratulate all the office bearers of the Goethe Society of India, all the past office bearers, all of them, for the excellent work they have done, for sustaining the spirit of inquiry. And I'm very happy that the University of Bombay and our colleagues there, Meher and Biba, have all supported the Goethe Society in this endeavor. I thank the DAAD, I thank the Consul General in Bombay, I thank also the director of the Mueller Bhavan Bombay. You've all come together to do an excellent job. And if we do not neglect the sense of history, I should like to remind all of you that next year is a very, very important year. One of the most seminal works in German literature, the Do You Know Elegies of Rainer Maria Rilke, was published in 1923. I hope we will all get together again to celebrate this anniversary. And on this note, als Hommage an die deutsche Sprache, ich darf Ihnen allen ein frohes Weihnachtsfest sowie einen guten Rutsch in das neue Jahr wünschen. Danke.
Thank you, Professor Subramanian. I would now like to hand over the mic to Shrikant Pathak for the vote of thanks as we finally reach the other shore of the river.
So thank you, Mihir. It was quite a journey. On behalf of Department of German, University of Mumbai, firstly, I would like to thank all the co-collaborators, Goethe Society of India, Goethe Institute, Mueller Bhavan, Mumbai, and Consul General of the Federal Republic of Germany in Mumbai. I would also like to thank and acknowledge the presence of Hesse Society Germany, as well as members of Hesse Society of India who were present today. Also, I would like to thank all the moderators for introducing the speakers and making it such a smooth transition. Also, all the presentations for all the insightful inputs given and the questions asked by the audience. That was also very interactive. To quote metrics, I would say for asking the right questions. Most of all, I would like to thank Juhi and Girisha for handling the technical aspects flawlessly and Mihir for comparing. Also, all the students who shifted to Google Meet when we had a Höhepunkt and more than 100 people in the conference. And thank you, all of you. I think the concluding remarks have given us some inputs for what should happen next year. So that would be either a continuation of Hermann Hesse's works or Rainer Maria Rilke or Stefan Zweig. So definitely with that, we should then conclude for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. It was wonderful. Excellent.